My name is Sloane. I am 26 years old, and tonight the entire room kept laughing, until I set my fork down and said one quiet line that changed everything. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe, because what happened at that table didn't just split a family, it rewired my idea of love, loyalty, and power. It was a long oak table polished to a mirror. Dad at the head telling stories like he owned the night. Mom correcting the waiter's posture like it was a sport. My brother, Ethan, spreading his arms as he pitched another brilliant idea. And Aunt Nora, the only soft light in the room, gently tapping my knee under the table like a heartbeat. I'm here. They were celebrating Ethan's round of funding. What they didn't say was where the money came from. They joked about me being too serious, too practical, too quiet. I smiled. I took a breath. I set my fork down. And I said one line. Calm, level, simple. The transfer you're toasting was reversed this afternoon. Break time equals 2 / Chairs scraped. Laughter died. Ethan blinked first. Dad's voice dropped. What did you do, Sloane? I looked at him, at all of them. I checked the accounts. The seed capital, you moved under my signature? It wasn't your money to move. Mom frowned like I was a smudge on her glass. Don't create a scene. We'll talk after dessert. We're already at the scene, I said softly. And the dessert is truth. Flashback flashed like a camera. Last winter, the lights almost cut off because my savings covered family emergencies. Spring, when my grad tuition refund disappeared into Ethan's prototype. The polite lies, the pretty excuses, the way I was always told to be grateful. Dad tried to laugh. This is a misunderstanding. I slid a folded document beside his plate. Then you'll love this. Authorizations, timestamps, and your own approval marks. I revoked them at 3:15. Aunt Nora exhaled a sound like a prayer. Ethan's jaw clenched. You wouldn't dare. I didn't dare, I said. I finally did. The chandelier hummed. The room held its breath. I thought the paper would be enough, until the door behind me opened and the person I trusted least walked in. The person at the door, Eli, my ex-boyfriend, walked in like he still belonged at our family table. Dad brightened. Ah, good timing, Eli. Join us. My pulse spiked. He smiled politely, sliding a briefcase onto the empty chair beside me. Sorry I'm late. I brought the contracts you asked for, sir. Mom's face glowed. You two still working together? So sweet. Eli's eyes flicked toward me, half apology, half warning. Break time equals 2 / If you're still watching, hit like and subscribe, because this is the part where betrayal stops being quiet and starts speaking fluent business. Eli opened the briefcase, laying out printed pages stamped Harrington Investments. The same company my brother was bragging about earlier. The one he said he founded. Dad leaned forward. Show us the new acquisition forms. Eli hesitated, glanced at me, then pushed the folder across the table. I slid it toward myself. The signatures were there. Dad's, Ethan's, and mine. Except the date next to mine was forged. Did you sign these? Dad demanded. I looked straight at Eli. Tell them who gave you my e-signature. He swallowed hard. Ethan did. Chairs scraped again. Ethan's voice rose. You liar. But the lie was already written in ink. Flashback. 2 months ago, Eli had begged me to trust him with a minor paperwork update. He said Ethan just needed faster approvals while I was traveling. I'd believed him. Love makes you blind, and sometimes convenient to frame. Now the truth sat glowing under the chandelier. I turned to my brother. You forged my approval to steal the last of our joint capital. He glared. You can't prove that. Eli reached into his jacket pocket and placed a flash drive on the table. Actually, he said softly, she can. Dad's knuckles whitened on the table edge. Mom's lip quivered. Aunt Nora whispered, Oh dear Lord. Eli slid the drive toward me, and under his breath he said, You're not the only one they tried to silence. The flash drive gleamed under the chandelier like a loaded secret. Eli's words hung in the air. You're not the only one they tried to silence. I picked it up slowly, feeling every stare press against me. Dad leaned forward, his voice calm but cold. What exactly is on that? Eli met his gaze. Emails. Transfers. Voice memos. Proof that the investment deal wasn't hers. It was Sloane's idea all along. Mom gasped. That's ridiculous. Aunt Nora whispered, let him speak. Eli continued, Ethan promised me a partnership if I helped him move the money through a dummy tech branch. I thought it was temporary. Then I realized he was using me to erase Sloan entirely. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe. Because sometimes betrayal doesn't come from enemies, it's built at your own dinner table. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The folder opened to a series of files /voicemails /invoices /screenshots /. I clicked the first one. Ethan's voice filled the speakers. Make sure her signature looks digital. She never checks timestamps. Dad's fork slipped from his hand, clattering onto the plate. Mom whispered, this can't be real. It's real, I said quietly. Down to the last pixel. Flashback. Nights I'd spent debugging Ethan's failed prototypes, only to see him take credit in board meetings. How Mom called it teamwork and Dad said family trust. How Aunt Nora pulled me aside once and said, when you stay quiet too long, you teach people how to bury you. Now their shovels were on the table. Eli's hands shook. I didn't know how to stop it, Sloan. I thought. I cut him off. You thought wrong. I stood up, walked to Dad and placed the flash drive beside his untouched glass of wine. This isn't revenge. It's just reality catching up. He stared at it, eyes hard. You'll regret this. I smiled faintly. I already did. For years. Break time equals 2/. I turned toward the waiter standing frozen in the corner. Could you please bring the check? I said softly. The poor man nodded, retreating. Everyone's eyes followed me as I gathered my laptop. But just as I reached the door, Aunt Nora's voice stopped me, calm, trembling, and holding a truth that none of them expected. Sloan, your mother signed the first transfer. The room fell into a stunned, breathless silence. Even the chandelier's hum seemed to fade after Aunt Nora spoke. Your mother signed the first transfer. I turned slowly. Mom's eyes darted between us, cold, cornered, desperate. Dad whispered, Nora, don't start this. But Aunt Nora's voice didn't shake this time. She deserves to know who really started the lie. Mom straightened in her chair, adjusting her pearl necklace like it could protect her. I did what was necessary to protect this family, she said. I laughed softly. By forging my name? By stealing from your daughter. Break time equals 2/. If you're still here, hit like and subscribe. Because this is the part where betrayal stops hiding behind love and starts speaking its real name, control. Mom's tone turned icy. You think you're the victim, Sloan? You've always been dramatic. Always made things harder for us. All I did was shift and used capital, temporarily. Dad's hand slammed the table. That's enough. No, Aunt Nora said firmly. It's not enough. Celia, you signed off the very first transfer to fund Ethan's project. And you hid it under household maintenance. Mom's eyes flared. You went through my files? No, Nora said. You left them on the kitchen counter. I stared at her. You knew all along? Nora nodded painfully. I warned them. But your father said family reputation came first. Flashback. I was 19 holding a college scholarship check that mysteriously bounced because paperwork got lost. Mom's words then had been almost identical. It's for the family. Back then I cried. Now I just felt still. Dad's voice softened, almost pleading. Sloan, we can fix this. Withdraw the audit, delete the evidence, and we'll restore your position. I looked at him, really looked. The man who raised me to believe integrity was everything. Until it was inconvenient. I said quietly, I'm not deleting anything. But I am restoring something, truth. Mom rose from her seat, furious. After everything we gave you, education, comfort, a name, you choose outsiders over your own blood? I met her gaze. You didn't give me a name, Mom. You borrowed mine for profit. Break time equals 2/. The waiter reappeared timidly with the bill. Eli stood up beside me. Let me walk you out, he said softly. I nodded, but as we stepped toward the exit, Aunt Nora slipped a folded note into my palm. When I opened it later that night, 3 words stared back at me. Check the trust. The paper shook slightly in my hand. Check the trust. 3 words. Simple but heavy enough to rearrange everything I thought I knew. I sat in my car outside the restaurant, engine off, lights dim. Eli sat beside me, quiet, waiting. "What does that mean?" he asked. I whispered, "It means this wasn't just about stolen money. It's about legacy." Break time equals 2s/. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because sometimes the real betrayal isn't what they steal, it's what they plan to leave you out of. I drove straight to Aunt Nora's townhouse. The porch light was still on, like she'd known I'd come. She opened the door before I even knocked. Inside, stacks of old ledgers and manila envelopes covered her table. "Your grandfather's estate trust," she said. "Your mother and father were supposed to split it equally between you and Ethan." I frowned. "Supposed to?" Nora handed me a thin folder labeled Reallocation Agreement, 2017. The document had my father's signature, Mom's initials, and Ethan's handwritten amendments. My name appeared once, crossed out. My chest tightened. "They removed me completely." Nora nodded. "They said you weren't business-minded enough. The trust was diverted into Ethan's startup shell." I didn't want to believe it then. Eli's voice was low. "That means every deal, every company share. She never had any equity." Nora's eyes met mine. "Until tonight. The reversal you filed redirected the entire trust back to its rightful owner," I finished. She smiled sadly. "Your grandfather would have been proud." I sank into the chair, overwhelmed. All those years, my family convincing me to stay in my lane, to be grateful, to stay small, had been part of a design. A silent exile masked as protection. Eli placed a hand on the table. "Sloan, they're not going to let this go quietly." I stared at the trust papers. "I'm counting on that." Break time equals 2s/. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. The night felt like it was waiting for something, like the truth had just found its voice. Before I could leave, Nora whispered one last thing. "Be careful. Your mother isn't done yet." Rain streaked down my windshield as I drove home. Nora's warning echoed in my head. Your mother isn't done yet. And she was right. Because the moment I walked into my apartment, the lights were already on. Mom was sitting on the couch. Perfect posture. Dry eyes. Waiting. I didn't even ask how she got in. Of course she had a key. "Sloan," she said softly, "we need to talk." Break time equals 2s/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe. Because this is the moment when manipulation dresses itself as love and walks right through your front door. She gestured to the papers in my hand. "I assume you've been to Nora's." I stayed standing. "You forged the trust." She exhaled like a teacher tired of explaining a lesson. "You think life is that black and white? Your grandfather left us an empire in chaos. We saved it. We kept the Harrington name alive. By erasing mine?" She looked at me with pity, not guilt. "You're too emotional for leadership, Sloan. That's not an insult, it's just fact. You wouldn't have survived the pressure." My laugh came out sharp. "So you decided for me. I protected you. You protected Ethan," I said quietly. "And the reputation you built on my silence." For a moment her mask cracked. "Do you know what people would have said if we let you fail? A daughter who couldn't handle power? A woman who lost the fortune her family built." "I didn't lose it," I said. "You stole it." Her eyes flickered, first with rage, then something darker. "You're making a mistake going public. Withdraw the audit and I'll make sure your name stays out of the press." I folded my arms. "My name should be in the press. It's on every document you tried to bury." She rose, closing the distance between us. "You're going to ruin everything. And when this goes down, don't come running to me." I met her eyes. "I stopped running a long time ago." Break time equals 2s/. She grabbed her purse, stormed past me, and at the door whispered, "You may think you've won, but you have no idea who funded that trust." The door clicked shut. When I checked the paperwork again, my heart froze. Beneath every forged signature was the same hidden seal. Harrington Holdings, private benefactor, Whitford. The name I hadn't heard since childhood. My father's old partner. The name M. Whitford pulsed through my head like static. Miles Whitford. My father's oldest friend, mentor, and business partner. He'd vanished from our lives a decade ago after a quiet disagreement no one ever explained. Now his name sat hidden beneath every forged signature. I called Aunt Nora. He picked up instantly. "You found it, didn't you? What does Whitford have to do with our trust?" Her voice lowered. Everything. He was your grandfather's co-executor. When your parents shifted funds, they used his dormant offshore accounts to mask the transfers. He was their shadow banker. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe, because sometimes the villains wear suits, not masks, and their silence costs more than any lie ever could. I stared at my laptop, scrolling through old correspondence. Then in my inbox, a new message. From m.whitford@harringtonholdings.com. Subject: We need to talk before morning. Eli looked at the screen beside me. You can't go alone. I have to, I said. If he helped them hide it, he's the only one who can expose it. Midnight. The rain hadn't stopped. Whitford's penthouse looked exactly like his reputation. Glass, steel, and money. He opened the door himself. Older. Grayer. But those same calculating eyes. Sloane, he said, smiling faintly. You've grown sharper than I expected. I found your name on every falsified trust document, I said. You helped them steal what was mine. He sighed. Helped. Oh, covered. Your parents were drowning. Your mother begged me to keep the company solvent after your father's embezzlement scandal nearly leaked. I froze. What scandal? He poured a drink. Your father used the trust's reserves to bail out a private investment. Thinyu. Celia agreed. I made it disappear. I stepped closer. Why hide this from me? Whitford looked at me, not with guilt but admiration. Because you were never supposed to inherit the company. You were supposed to rebuild it. I frowned. Rebuild. He slid a folder toward me. Everything they stole, every false signature, every hidden account, all of it is now under your name. I moved it months ago. My breath caught. Why? Because, he said quietly, I saw in you what your father didn't: restraint. Break time equals 2/. He raised his glass. They called you weak. I called you the insurance policy. Lightning flashed through the glass wall, throwing reflections across the floor. Now, he said, what will you do with everything they built on lies? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. Your father knows you're here. The message glowed on my phone screen. Your father knows you're here. Whitford's calm expression didn't change, but the air around us did. I looked toward the glass elevator shaft. Its red light flickered like a pulse. He's on his way, Whitford said quietly. I wondered how long it would take. Rain hammered against the windows, city lights blurring like melted gold. When the elevator doors opened, my father stepped out. No security, no entourage, just him. The man who once told me, power isn't inherited, it's enforced. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because sometimes justice doesn't come from courtrooms. It walks through the same door that betrayal once used. Dad's voice was low. You shouldn't have come here, Sloane. Neither should you, I said. Unless you're ready to tell the truth. He laughed softly. Truth? There's no truth in business, only leverage. Whitford poured another drink, silent. Watching. I stepped closer. Then consider this leverage. I have every document, every transfer, and every recording. You used my name. You used my trust. You wouldn't destroy your own family, he said. I smiled faintly. You already did. I opened my phone and tapped send. The files transferred, straight to the bureau, the press, and the ethics board. Whitford raised his glass, almost reverently. She learned faster than we did. Dad's voice broke. You'll bury our name. I met his eyes. No. I'm freeing it. Break time equals 2/. He turned toward Whitford. You planned this, didn't you? Whitford's gaze was cool. I planned for survival. She planned for truth. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in my father's eyes. He walked toward the elevator in silence, rain-soaked light flickering across his reflection. When the doors closed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, sharp and still. Whitford set down his glass. It's all yours now. The company. The estate. The name. I nodded slowly. I don't want to own it. I just want to rebuild it. He smiled faintly. Then maybe this family finally found its real heir. The next morning, headlines filled every screen. Harrington heir exposes decade of fraud. returns family empire to public trust. I stood at the window, sunlight replacing last night's storm. For once, the silence didn't hurt. Break time equals 2 because I hadn't just cleared my name. I'd rewritten the ending of theirs. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who raised you? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. They taught me power. I taught them consequence.